Welcome everybody, Andrew Houston here from Profit for Contractors with another podcast. Podcast the profits, podcast the power, podcast that get in the behind the scenes insights, tips and tricks and tools. And I'm very honored to be here with a couple of rock stars, a couple of people that are part of the Profit for Contractors family. And so I'm here with Jon. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, Andy.
Hey, Coach.
How's it going, boys? We good? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Are you guys ready for a few pints this weekend?
Oh, for sure. Started already last night, but yeah.
Oh, you did? Actually, I had a couple of pints last night. The only problem was I was up at this farm that I bought that I'm doing some renovations and stuff, and I didn't bring the cooler with me. Amazing what happens when beer's left out in the sun for not more than 30 minutes. But I still had a warm beer, so what can you do? So listen, we're here with these two awesome rock stars, and let's get into a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. Jon, I want you just to introduce yourself as far as who you are, what you do, what your company is, and then Andy, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself as well, man. This is like new for you, and everybody you'll understand in just a second. So Jon, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you guys do.
So my name is Jon Tenbrink. I'm a master electrician, and so I own two companies now. It's Blackjack Contracting, and we specialize in investment real estate, so legal suites, duplex conversions, all that fun jazz. And now the owner of TNL Wiring Pros. So we just opened our new electrical company on Monday.
Awesome, man. And I see you've got somebody beside you. Who's this person beside you?
This is Mr. Andrew Lobsinger. He likes to be called Andy, so I just do that to make him feel bad. But he has been working with me or for me for the last 13 years, either with another company or for my own company, and he is now my business partner in the new company.
Sorry to hear about that, Andy. You haven't worked with Jon for the last 13 years, but hey, man, what can you do? So,
Too bad.
What's that? Hasn't been too bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. He's the one that was buying beers last night too, so that's okay. So let's get into, if you're listening in on this podcast, if this is the first time you've listened in on a podcast, it's a no bullshit podcast. Actually, that would be a bad freaking title, eh? Like the no bullshit podcast for contracting.
The title, the no bullshit contracting podcast.
That's it, man. So. And when I say that, everybody, this is not like you listen in and it's just a bunch of fluff and pie in the sky and climb a mountain. And I'm not saying that wouldn't be a bad thing, but I'm just, it's not. This is the real deal, right? Like, we're going to give you guys tactics, insights. We're going to show you and talk about what are some of the things that's allowed Jon and Andy to get to where they're at. But that also means we're going to be talking about some struggles, okay? So one of the things I'm going to do right now to see if this is of interest to you as a listener is we're just going to highlight really quickly some of the, let's call it transformations that Jon has made, and as well as you, Andy. Really quickly, like the before, sort of the after, and then if that interests you from a topical perspective, along this podcast road, we're going to be filling in the blanks of like, well, how the hell did he go from this to this? How did Andy go from that to that? Okay, so let's let her rip. So I'm just going to go quickly through my little list of things. I think let's tee this up and just say, Jon, you've been part of the PFC family for about a year now?
Actually, it hasn't even been that long. It's only been about 9 months.
Really? Dude.
October of 2019.
I love it. I love it. So that's cool, man. That's great. So with that being said, let's just talk about some of the high-level things for you, and then we'll talk about the high-level things for you, Andy, and then we'll get into filling in the blanks, okay? So I think one of the things that, when you came to Profit for Contractors, and I think this is a topic that a lot of contractors struggle with, and it's no surprise. I did when I had my contracting company. I had a bit of a different solution, which we'll talk about in a second. But actually, I'll just tell you. My solution was I married an accountant. So you guys might pick up what topic.
That sounds cheaper. I might do that.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, isn't that interesting? I don't know if that's true.
That's not true.
Yeah, Jennifer, if you're listening to this, I would have to say that was pretty expensive. You're a pretty expensive accountant, okay? But it was well worth it. It's well worth it. Okay, so let's talk about the financials. So your financials, where were they at 9 months ago? Like, just be real, man. Let it rip.
We're like basically non-existent. So all I knew was to check how much money was in the bank, and then I'd give my bookkeeper some papers a few times a year, and then I trusted this person just because it was my fault. I didn't even spend the time to look into whether she was the right person or not. It was just a family friend, and said, "Can you do this?" "Oh, sure, he can." And then about a year ago, I had a investments, and says to me, "Is like, something's wrong here." Off of 30 seconds looking at the books, and then I realized, oh shit, something's wrong, and then started doing some research and realized how bad it was.
That's one of the biggest focuses at Profit for Contractors. Actually, one of the very first things that we hone in on, one of the very first pillars is getting a handle of your financials. Okay, so guys, I'll get a little bit more into that, but you're not alone if you don't have a handle of your financials. A lot of people that are contractors are dealing. I call it the bookkeeper in a box. And the bookkeeper in a box, you probably never heard of that, John or Andy. But the bookkeeper in the box is basically you hand all your receipts to the bookkeeper in a box, right? And the bookkeeper basically hands it back to you with an empty box. But at the end of the day, it's still just a box of shit. Like, you still don't know what the hell's going on, right? So now you're in a better place. You've got a better understanding of your financials. One of the things I know you got a better understanding of is knowing that you're pricing your jobs profitably. And correct?
Yep, and that's a funny story of why I decided to join the PFC family, because I watched a 30-second video that you did for free and realized instantly how bad I've been fucking up. Sorry for that.
It's true, right? So here's a prime example, guys, why this is important. So as far as the before and after, it was probably within weeks that we started breaking down the financials that hone in on not just the whole of the financials, but like, John, let's see, are you pricing jobs profitably? Like, that was like number one priority, right?
That's right. Number one.
So that's a huge thing that anybody listening in, you have got to get nailed. And I'm going to bring you into this picture, Andy. So Andy, you're a partner. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, tell us why you're on this call.
Well, I started out just in this trade, just as an electrician, never ever thinking that I would be a business owner or partner or anything of this magnitude. But I worked super hard. Hopefully John will say differently, but I got here, and then when John offered me a position, I was super scared at first. I didn't know what to do. I was nervous, had a whole bunch of questions. I wasn't sure who to ask John, ask everybody. And then
you didn't trust me.
With Profit for Contractors, John, and everybody that just wanted to support me naturally, I jumped right in.
It's awesome.
I couldn't resist.
It's awesome. Team, trust is something, you've heard this before, but trust is something that is earned. So everybody's heard that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trust is actually something that is seen. You might be what you're talking. Well, if John's in disarray and he's got fucking boxes of receipts, right? And things are a gong show. And by the way, let's be clear, Andy, you're a partner now, right? Of another business.
Yep.
So in 9 months, this is another win. John, you've gone from having one business and not making the profits you should. We'll talk about the gains, the other gains in a second. To now having the business to a point where you can open up a second business, and to the point where, Andy, you were trustworthy enough and it was attractive enough by the changes that you saw that as an employee, you now have become an owner, a co-owner with John. Is that true?
Yep.
So everybody listening on the call, it is absolutely, the possibilities that you have are huge. And I'm going to be reiterating these 3 different places, okay, as we go through this podcast. But if you're listening on this podcast, you're going to be in one of these 3 places. If you were to draw it like a triangle, so if you got a piece of paper, not so much you guys, but if you're listening, You draw it like a triangle, and I'm just going to simplify these different layers. Okay, now John and Andy, you know that there's some subset layers beyond this, but just to simplify it, I'm going to bring down to 3 layers. There's startup. That's you in a truck. That's you're basically doing 80% of the hats. Okay, you might have a technician, you might have an apprentice, you might have a technician and apprentice, but that's about it. Okay, and you're running ragged. The business is heavily you. If that's you, then understand that all these things that we're talking about today are applicable to you. Because in order for you to grow your business, you've got to get beyond you being on the tools. What would you say to that?
100%.
Now, why is that? I'm going to let Andy answer that.
Well, if I'm out in the field and on the tools, I can't do anything in the office and follow leads or call up anybody that needs that sent a lead in. I can't do a quote. So if I'm out in the field, there's no more work available.
You got it. So again, and John, what would you say as far as value of your time, which is what Andy's talking about?
If you don't get out of the field, you can't work on your business instead of working strictly in it, and it'll never go anywhere. And that's where I was in the beginning, and that's where I'm not now. So
I love it. Okay. So guys, if you're a startup, then, if you want to get some more information, you want to get some help, you want to get some of these tools that we're going to be talking about, get some insights, click the links below. Next level on that pyramid. Okay, remember I said there's 3. Next one is stability. That's where you've got a team of people. Okay, and when I say stable, it doesn't mean that you're stable in the sense of you as a business owner, but you're stable in the sense of you've got lots of work, you got players in place. You're still wearing a lot of the hats, but it's not just you in a truck. Okay, you're now becoming a business owner, or you have the intuition and the drive to become truly an entrepreneur. And you've seen that because you've gone out and hired more than just one guy. You've probably got 5, 10, you could have 100 guys, okay? So that's stability, okay? And at stability, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to the next level, which is scale. You're trying to get your business, where John was stuck. John was stuck in between, in my opinion, between startup and stability. And you would be in the office and be out in the field and be in the office, you're just back and forth, right?
that's right.
So stability, guys, is the next level for you. Is you want to scale your business. You want to get it to a point where, like John is, that you can work on the business and that you can really bring the maximum value to the business, to the point that you've got situations and opportunities like what's happened with Andy coming up, right? You can expand your business, or you can expand another business, right? Scale, which is the next level, is where we're able to really get the business to run without us, okay? And that means whether you're there or not, the business is growing, okay? So whether if you're at startup, stability, or at scale, and you want to get this business running more without you, click the links below. So the next area, let's talk about the next area. Just highlight, and then we'll come back to some of the fill in the blanks. Let's talk about the time. So, and when we're looking at time, John, you mentioned that you've gained back at least 15 to 20 hours a week. Now let's talk about what was that like when you first started with PFC? How did you feel about time?
I feel, every day waking up feeling like you're on the hamster wheel. There's never enough time. It's because, and the family is the one that was sacrificed the most. So, you take them on a trip and their kids were hanging off your feet because they don't get to see you for weeks at a time and all that stuff. And, a very patient but pissed off wife and all that stuff. So that was one of the main goals in the whole thing, was to gain back time.
It's funny. I think that would be a probably common denominator with most contractors. Is the family is sacrificed.
Yeah,
and it's not because you want to. It's like people will say, people that aren't entrepreneurs will sort of bash us sometimes, and they'll be like, you say you're doing this for the family, but you're full of shit. You're never spending the quality time. You're never doing this. I just want to say, you have no freaking idea what the hell you're talking about. Okay. We do this for our families, and it's not like we want to be away from our families. John, can you talk to that?
Yeah, people I mean, during this whole COVID thing, getting out of the house wasn't a bad thing, but no, I mean, that's exactly everything we do or everything I do is for them, right? The kids get before we do and all that stuff. We don't go extravagant and on ourselves, but working all those hours and putting all this effort is to make sure that they live a good life and they don't have to worry about it. People will believe you or not, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
But to us sacrificing everything we do, like the time working from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. is not what anybody would classify as fun. But sometimes you just felt you had to do what you had to do because you just didn't have it together. So, so that's one of the main reasons to be doing this, and one of the main things that I've gained out of it.
I love it. So now you've got 15 to 20 hours back. What does that look like? As far as like,
now I'm usually home for dinner.
Love it.
Most days, unless I got a specialty appointment. I was able to, go to a few of my kids' events before COVID, soccer, karate, all that stuff. Sundays are now, for the 99% of the time, for the family, right? You spend time together. We were able to get a camping trailer with the with our parents. So we have more time to spend up there with them, and it's been weird but nice.
Well, isn't it funny? It's an adjustment, isn't it?
It is an adjustment.
Okay.
It's actually getting rid of the guilt is still a struggle.
Mm-hmm. And Andy, now when you hear that, what do you think? Being a new entrepreneur.
Well, for me, just starting up, I feel like I have lost a few hours compared to just being a worker bee from 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 4:30, whatever it may be. But now I might be in the shop after dinner, might be early in the morning. And I've explained that to my girlfriend, and she's totally happy with it, and she's okay and understanding. But you got to work hard at the beginning to make your life easy in the end.
Totally. Here's what I want you to catch. And everybody listening in. Jon has walked the path before you. So you might have to be putting in a few extra hours. But you're not going to have to experience what he did. Now you would probably never know what that was like, except for him to describe to you, like 15, 20. Like, Jon, you were putting in like 50, 60, 70, 80, some more hours in a week, right?
It was average 60 to 80, yep.
Yeah, there you go, okay? So, and as well, you weren't able to turn it off, true?
No, still struggling with that, tell you the truth.
Right, okay, that's something that we got to work through, right? Okay? These are habits, guys. That's why I'm saying this is the no bullshit podcast. I love it. It takes a long time to get rid of habits that we've had. By the way, I still struggle with it, and I teach you guys this shit. Okay, but it's you're in a stage where you're moving forward. Like getting 15 to 20 hours back a week, dude. That's like days.
It's really changed him as a person, to be honest.
Tell me about that, Andy. What have you seen?
Well, before, when I was just working for Jon, you could see there's a few times where he was struggling. He's always tired, a little ornery every once in a while. And then when he started, I believe it was right when he started with you guys, and you could see the wheels turning in his head and how he was being a lot more efficient. He was a lot happier. He was a lot friendlier. He was coming out, hanging out with everybody, having a beer or a drink or whatever. He's totally a different person now. He's a lot happier.
Oh, man, Jon, how's that feel to hear that, dude?
I think he's fishing for a raise, quite honestly, but yeah. No, it's good. It's good.
No, like, I want everybody to understand, listening in. If you were to look at this as a myth, Jon, what would you say is the myth behind when you hear somebody say, I don't have enough time?
Oh, it's not true. You're just not using your time well.
Right. And somebody might say, that's just the way it is as an entrepreneur. Like I gotta be talking to every guy every day. I gotta be everywhere all the time. I love the one. I know I'm throwing you a few, but just pick whatever resonates with you. But I love the infamous. Well, if I don't do it, it won't get done right.
No, you just got the right people to do it.
Right. And Andy, how important are systems to support the right people?
Oh, huge. Because if you don't have the system, especially for me just getting into this, I don't really know what I'm doing. But if the right systems are in place and I can follow step by step by step, I'll still get to that end goal.
The honest truth of the matter is I have a fantastic long-term memory, and that's one of the main things that I was really bad at, is keeping everything in my head, like everything, and expecting people to know it because it just, to me, it's easy, and I get frustrated by that subject. So now we have, electronic systems, all that in place, and photographs, videos, all that good stuff to make sure that it's not just in my head.
Holy man, we've got software, we've got policies, we've got procedures. Okay, let's talk about again. We're going to talk about some of the specific. We'll probably come back with one or two strategies for each one of these. Okay, everybody listening. So when you look at A players, like that segue to A players, I mean, you had some C and D team members, sure?
Oh yeah, we did, and I'm really bad for having personal emotions towards people, so it made it really hard. But in the last year, I've gotten rid of 4 personal people in my life that weren't serving the company well.
Now, when you look back before Profit for Contractors, and again, everybody listening in, I got to be straight up with you. Whether you engage with us or you engage with somebody else, I'm gonna say this. This is not some sort of pitch. It's the reality of, like, one of the biggest things that allows people like Jon and Andy and others to move forward is they raise their hand and realize that you can't fucking figure out all this shit on your own. Okay? So again, if you're at startup, you're by yourself, you're in a truck, and you're finding it hard to find people, guys, or if that's the case at stability or at scale where it's like, man, I can't find any good people, honestly, that's a bunch of bullshit. So let's talk about the myth behind finding A players.
People think that A players don't exist, and that's not true. I was able to get 2 in the last week, and that's because of we did a nice little we had a nice little couple-hour seminar on finding A players with PFC recently, and especially with the whole COVID thing, we knew the opportunities were there for the picking, and we took advantage of it. But they are there. You just have to be in the right position to hire them.
So listen, I'll tell you, everybody on this call, maybe I will touch on just a couple of tactics. Everything we're talking about right now has a system that has to be supported by structure, that has to be ran by people to get to the results. It's like a formula. Structure times systems times people equals results. You remove any one of those fucking things, and 0 times 1,000 times 1,000 equals what? Zippo! Right? Right? So you got an A player beside you. I mean, you had an A++ player beside you to go from being a guy as an employee to now a partner. So what would you say, Andy, as a myth? Going from that transition, what would you see as some of the myths that an owner might not be seeing even with his own team?
Well, you could still be, your quality of work as an A++ player might be there, but you still have to fit in with all the groups. Like, if you could still be a great worker, but everybody hates you, it's still not very good for the company. Now, like, for going to like an owner, it's hard to really say. What'd you say?
Personally, I just think that, you can be the world's greatest worker and still be an asshole to the point where it drives the team apart, which I experienced last year. So, in my position now, I won't tolerate that to the point where now it's like, if you're not getting along with the team and you're driving the team apart, you won't be here. And that's made a big difference. So
I love it. So let me just amplify that. So if you've listened in on this, hopefully by now you've taken some pointers down. Number 1 is you've identified where you're at in what I call let's call it the condensed contractor's ladder of success, right? Are you at startup? Are you at stability? Are you at scale? That's really important. Okay. And it's important so that you know that they're where you're at, so you know what the next level is. Okay. And that brings me to this point. when you're looking at building a team, if you're at, let's just say you're at scale and you got this big team, amplifying your point, Andy and Jon, there are 3 things I want you guys to write down, everybody listening in this order of priority, and I'll just be quick. Attitude is number 1. Fit with the team, number 2. Skill set, number 3. You're like, what are you talking about, Andrew? That's the priority. You might be like, bullshit. Skill set comes first. No. I'm not saying Andy or Jon's going to hire an unlicensed electrician. By the way, everybody, I'm a licensed electrician. I'm still a licensed electrician. Jon, you're a licensed electrician?
Yes, sir.
So we got 3 people on this call that get paid to pull our wire, right? So it's all good. But the reality is that if you've got if you hire somebody with a bad attitude and you don't have a hiring process to identify that, and all you're doing is accepting resumes, okay, and you're not using a system like a designed, structured application form, you're in trouble. Because you won't be able to identify their attitude. If you don't have a system that identifies the fit with, does this person fit with the team? I mean, Andy, did you play hockey or any sports?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you look like a hockey player. Nice, dude. What position did you play?
I started out as a goalie and then I transitioned away and I'm a defenseman now.
I knew you were a D. I'm a goalie, by the way. So isn't it interesting that, like, imagine you and I in the same team, and you're like, I don't know, so that everybody recognizes the name because based upon age, right? I'm just going to say, let's say Gretzky, right? And hey, Canadian, man. Rock and roll, baby. You and I could be Gretzky's. You could be the Gretzky version out on the ice, and I'm the Gretzky version in the nets. If you and I hate each other, and we don't get along, we're going to have a problem. Worst case is that, imagine you're center, and I'm left wing, and we're both Gretzky's. And neither one of us are going to pass the puck to each other. And we're out to get it, we just hate each other. What's going to happen?
Team's going to fail.
Definitely.
So skill set, everybody. Okay? Skill set. By the way, Andy's gone from being an employee to now becoming a business owner. Is that a skill set that can be learned? Jon?
Absolutely.
Fucking right. If you got the right tools, right? If you're at startup and you want to go to stability, you can learn it. It's skill set. The question is, do you have the right attitude? And are you going to be the right fit for whoever it is that you engage with? Because I'll tell you, not everybody that comes to us is a fit. And that's okay. It's okay. So, how important is culture, Jon and Andy, when it comes to attitude and fit?
I think it's more important than anything, quite honestly, because I've seen it happen. What it'll do, it'll destroy. You could be the best company in the world. You destroy your culture, you don't have a company. So, and the honest truth of the matter, that's how Andy and I left another company that had a fantastic gig going. We both left for the same reason, and it was attitude and structure.
Amazing, eh? I'm going to say I'm going to hit a nerve here. Hey, Andy,
yep.
And look at dude. Just tell it as it is, okay? Jon can handle it. With Jon's attitude, the way it was, grumpy, tired, angry, right?
Yep.
Maybe overreactive, all these different things. Non-motivational, a drain on energy, right? Not fitting with the team because he's not willing to even sit down and have a pop with the boys or whatever. What's that impact have culturally on a company?
It brings down everybody. It's like a waterfall, right? It starts from the top, and if one person sees it, it comes on to the next person. So even when we do our Monday morning meetings here, I have to come in, be all excited for the week, talk to them about what's going to happen, what has happened, and it's a whole waterfall effect. If you're grumpy, everybody's going to be grumpy. If you're happy, everybody's going to be happy.
Right. Here's the interesting thing. How quickly, when Jon's attitude changed, when his mindset shifted, when Jon was like, hey man, I know what I got to do. Hey, I'm making progress. All those other things that generated that he had a, let's just call it, he knew that he had a recipe for success. You know, how quickly does that change the environment?
Oh, it's like turning on a light bulb, instantaneously. Because I saw him. Yeah, I saw what he was doing. How he wants to make everything better. It made me want to work harder and improve upon the company.
Love it. Love it. So everybody listening in, understand, like you can there's certain changes that take time, but one of the most important changes is your attitude as an owner. And your attitude as an owner determines a lot of how you engage with your team, which has got so much to do with your fit, right? If you're not engaging with your team, if you're not, authentically driven to engage with your team in the right way, to put the right procedures in place, to have this thing. And what Andy's talking about is this Monday morning meeting. This is a tool in the system. If you guys want to get this template, just click the links below. It's a tool we give away for free. It shows you the agenda. I don't know, maybe Andy and John, you guys talk to it. How impactful was the Monday morning meeting to the team and to the culture?
It took a little while to get going, quite honestly, because people weren't used to it. But once I instituted and people expected it, we had coffee. We'd all have pleasantries and then set out the plan for the week. And everybody was on the same page. And that's what I take away from it the most is get everybody on the same page. Because as I said before, the everything in the head business had to go. So now by starting on the Monday, say, well, we got to get done this week. What happened last week? And even during COVID, now we just switched it to Zoom, which we find actually works better for everybody because we're kind of spread out as a team. So now it's even faster and more efficient.
I love it, man. I love it. Which in essence, we had Rick Harris, one of the coaches who runs a contracting company as well. He leveraged Zoom and leveraged technology and basically was able to pass that structure backed by the Monday morning meeting, and bingo bango, you guys were able to keep on moving forward, right? Even better than before.
Didn't stop it at all.
Yep, totally. And Andy, on your side, how important was this Monday morning meeting when it came to efficiencies and things of that nature?
Well, it's definitely a lot more efficient, but I think the biggest thing, especially for just like an employee side, is it makes you feel involved, more of like a family, right? Like you have an impact, makes you feel like you have more of an impact on the company than just your work. Because everybody's looking for your insights. You're like, John always used to look for my insights and this and that, see what he can improve on. So like if I can tell him things that I think that he can improve on, he can take that as he wants, but he might not see the things that I see.
It's interesting, just to let everybody be clear, it's called the Monday morning meeting. The tool you want to get your hands on is called the top 5 money making meetings. And the Monday morning meeting is only one of them. I'm not going to get into the other ones, but you definitely want to get your hand on that tool. So again, take action. It doesn't cost you anything, but having the right attitude to want to learn, and listening to these guys as far as the impact. Like, you're out of your freaking mind if you don't apply this thing. What would be a myth around meetings that you maybe were thinking, John, in the past?
Mine was that the employees wouldn't embrace it. They would be they'd fight against it and all that. And that was probably the one I had going into the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think, Andy, if it's so, I mean that's normal, right? That's normal. Andy, on your end, what would be a myth from an employee perspective during that time?
A myth would be like that the employees don't care about the company.
Yes,
because we all do in our own certain ways. It's just might need to get little help to get on the right path.
Mm-hmm. Everybody listening in, here's the core of this principle of the Monday morning meeting. So, guys, I dealt with all this shit myself. I had guys, I had about at the time probably 30 plus guys running my automation company, and very complex builds. And I thought the same thing. I thought that guys wouldn't be interested. I actually thought that my myth was I thought that meetings were a waste of fucking time. Because when I tried to have a meeting, it went on forever, right? There was no accountability. It created more confusion. And one of the problems is that I tried to cover everything off in the meeting, right? The Monday morning meeting is specific to what defines success for the week. And anybody that is an A player, tell me if I'm right or wrong, boys, especially you, Andy, being back in the employee. A players want to know what defines a win.
Yep.
Like, you don't even play fucking shinny, not keeping score. You don't even, right? You don't,
yep.
Right? It's like, okay, what's the score, man? It's 2-1. Okay, man, guys, like, it changes the environment. It changes people's participation. It changes, Andy, you can't give input on shit, even if Jon wants input, if you don't even know what he needs input on.
Exactly.
So, if you're dealing with this myth of any of those things we talked about, guys, get over it. What would you say to them to move forward with something like this, guys?
It's all in your head.
Yeah.
It's all in your head.
It is. It's so true. Okay, next. So a lot of these things, getting better time focus, right? Getting hours back, getting better control of the financials, getting clarity of better communication, getting better players, allowed you to free up time. You've increased your sales by, I think, Liam was saying around 25%. Your profits have increased by 21%. Can you give some sort of value? You don't have to be exact, but can you give some sort of value? Like, what does that look like? A year's worth of 25% more increase in sales and a year's worth of a 21% increase in profits. So, like, we're not talking about $1 here.
Yeah, no, it's the honest truth of the matter is for the existing company, it's in sales 500 to 700,000, and it's a couple $100,000 in profit.
Okay, everybody listening in, this is not chump change. Okay, so we're talking about over $500,000 in sales, guys. And we're talking about in the hundreds of thousands of dollars of profits. Not gross, but in your pocket. True, Jon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I talk about all the time getting one of my core, I don't know, I guess maybe I should know this, I don't know, but it's one of the core values that I believe in. And let's see if you guys remember it, if one of you do. To me, the company's I'm called Profit. My business is called Profit for Contractors, and the reason it's called Profit for Contractors, everybody, it's not time for contractors. It's not fluff for contractors. It's profit for contractors, because I believe that your profits pay for your what?
Freedom.
Profits pay for your freedom. So, if you're an entrepreneur and you're not in it for money, dude, get out. Yeah, get out. Like, seriously, get off this podcast. Like, fucking leave. Like, seriously. And do not engage. Don't send me any messages. Don't, my team protects me, by the way. If anybody's listening in and you're like one of these naysayers or bashers, my team protects me because I do have a little bit of a temper. And when Liam's like, oh, this guy said this, I'm like, where's that fucker? Like, what are you talking about? Like, because I'm so passionate about helping you guys, because I know that this stuff works. But when people are just let's just say evil, I'm just like, I'm back on the ice. Like, let's just beat them. You know what I mean? I know it's terrible. I was like, man, it's, you need to beat him, but that's bad. Okay. Anyways, that's why it's a no bullshit freaking podcast. Okay. So what impact does that have on you mentally? What impact has it had you from a financial perspective, Jon? And then I want to hear from you, Andy. Like, what does that mean to be able to hear it? Like, holy shit, Jon. Like, wow, this stuff really worked. And we can apply this stuff to the business I'm part of. So tell me, Jon, mindset-wise, impact-wise, family, business, how did that?
It's a whole package, right? Your mindset affects your attitude affects your family life, financials. Like, the honest truth of the matter is, if I was going the way I was going 2 years ago, I'd be dead in 10 years. I'd have a heart attack, right? Because the stress levels you put yourself under when things aren't going well and you don't have any money and you got bills to pay is incredible, right? So it changes your life into the fact where you can actually enjoy life now. And that's probably the number one thing that you could ever ask for.
Man, that's well said. Which I talk about profits paying for freedom. Guys, freedom, we all have our own definition of freedom. But there's some core areas of freedom. Mindset freedom. Right? Fuck. This is working. Wow. There's money in the bank. Right? Not a roller coaster. Right? There's and we're talking about mindset. There's I'm not saying that there's no stress, but now you get excited. True, John?
Yeah, 100%.
Why that? Like, honestly, would you have ever thought of opening up a business, whether with Andy or not, if you were still on that path?
There's no way I could have allowed myself to do it because I just wouldn't have time. I mean, it took a lot of effort to get this going in the proper fashion, and there was no way that would have happened. No way.
And Andy, on your side, as a new partner, and by the way, everybody, we're not talking a partner as in he's now a partner of one of the existing business. We're talking about a new business, guys, that they've started up. So they're applying all these principles. How does that make you feel when you're hearing that, Andy?
Oh, I'm excited because I know he's been down in the gutters and as low as you can be. And I've seen the physical change and the mental change that he's had to go through. And I know that he's not going to stop at just a little bit of profit. He's going to keep on going and want to keep pushing.
Which means what for you in the business that you're part of?
He's going to teach me how not to be in the gutter.
Right, and to make freaking money, dude, so that you can have freedom. Well, I mean, understand, guys. Go ahead, John.
I mean, we've already reverse engineered this business for 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and we know because we're not doing a job unless we make our certain gross margin that we're not doing the job. So we already know what kind of money we're gonna be making 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and we just have to execute the plan now. So it's a pretty good feeling.
I love it. So everybody listening on the call, let's just sort of, we're gonna start wrapping things up here in just a minute. But let me just sort of condense this for you. To go from being in chaos means going from chaos in all aspects of your business. So let's start off with the first one. John was in chaos regarding his financials. Okay? The reality of the situation is you guys that are listening in that are contractors and owners, you were never freaking trained to be able to read your financials. You were never able to, I listened to John earlier and I never commented, but I'll comment now saying like, yeah, I didn't know if I had a good bookkeeper. Like, there are core traits that you need to know, and don't try and figure it out on your own because it's going to cost a lot of money, right, John?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And right, Andy?
Yep.
Right. That don't assume that you've got a good bookkeeper or an accountant. You need to know that. So again, you want to reach out to us, we can tell you what the criteria is. Like, here's what you got to look for. Here's within minutes, right, John? I remember I had a call with you, and I said, John, I need you to go to the bookkeeper and ask them these 2 questions. I go, based upon how they answer those 2 questions, we'll know in like minutes the type of bookkeeper you have, an accountant. True?
Oh, very true.
Totally, okay? If you're bookkeeping or accountant, I'll give you one of them for free. If your bookkeeping or accountant is not sitting down with you, making sure that you're pricing your jobs properly, making sure that you know your break-even margin on the different types of work that you do, get in the car, run to the hills, fire them, and get somebody else, okay? Because they're not doing their job, okay? Honest to God, okay? Next, if you're looking at your time and you're looking at your team, you've got to understand that hoping for more time, putting in more time is not going to actually result in you getting back more time. It's going to make things fucking worse. What do you say to that, boys?
Oh, it's amazing because if you're putting in all that time, first of all, you don't have the energy to do nothing else or the focus. And then number 2 is that if you don't spend any time working on systems for your business, it only just gets worse and worse.
Absolutely. Because in essence, if John hands to you, Andy, the wrong way of doing something, putting in more time is going to do what?
Lead to bad things. It's not going to.
It's going to what?
It's going to amplify the bad things.
Everybody, we talked about quoting profitably. That's huge, right? If you're not quoting profitably, I guarantee you are not running your jobs profitably. How would I know that, John?
How would you know that? Because if you're not making any money, and then you're going to a job site, which means you need to get the next deposit, so you're not finishing that job, you're running to the next one, and then you just get into a never-ending cycle. You can't. It's like going to payday loans at that point.
Totally. Right, the never-ending story, right? So, guys, you've got to have systems in place. There are systems, and when you look at your increase in profitability, let's just talk about that. It wasn't one place, everybody. It was the fact that John was able to know that he was quoting jobs profitably. It was that he was then able to go and realize that, hey, I got to get rid of we never touched on this, but just super fast, not just getting rid of C&D team members, but getting rid of C&D clients.
And that was huge.
Tell me about it.
Well, so we haven't got into it in this story, and I don't have time to explain to it. But before I started my current company, I had a small electrical company by myself, and I found every bad C&D client, and I just accepted it because I thought I needed the work. And between the headaches, the not paying, the hassle on my teammates, and all that, it pretty much drove it into the ground. So, and then one of the first things we do is learn how to filter bad clients here. And nowadays, if they don't, I know right away. I'll know if just based on their attitude or whether they're talking about pricing that I don't want to work with them. I don't.
Okay. I'll spend, let's just take 5 extra minutes. Like, just, if you okay for 5 more? Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the myth. But Andrew, I got to keep my guys busy. And I go, but are you pricing your jobs profitably? No, but Andrew, I need to keep my guys busy. What would you say to that?
You're going to not have enough money to make their paycheck in about 2 weeks. So
keeping the guys busy, not to be able to pay them, especially not to be able to pay yourself.
Yeah.
It's a myth. If you can't land jobs profitably, Andy, here's a test for you. No pressure. If you can't land a job profitably, and it means landing that job meant you'd have to lay off a couple of guys, would you take on the job knowing that it wasn't profitable, or would you not take on the job and lay off the 2 guys?
I probably wouldn't take the job and lay off a couple of guys.
Guys, that's the right decision. See? It's those decisions that are going to freaking make or break you. It's those decisions that will keep you in the gutter, working for nothing, less than nothing. True?
Very true.
So at the beginning of this call, we talked about knowing your financials. If you don't know if you're pricing the freaking job profitably, how the hell would Andy know? How would John know? You wouldn't know. If you're not pricing your jobs profitably, you probably don't know if you're running your jobs profitably, for sure. And you probably, if you don't have systems for quoting, I freaking guarantee you don't have systems for running your jobs. And how critical is that, boys?
It's everything.
Without setting the quote, I mean, you set the quote properly, there's no way you can run the job properly. So, I mean, we spent the last few weeks making sure that our system is set up to the point where we can't lose money. So, it's been fun. It's been a challenge, and we know every time we go out, we're making money. So,
see, you know what I'm hearing consistently? I'm hearing this word challenge. Okay. And I love hearing that.
But that challenge is boring.
Well, here's the thing. It's one thing to have a challenge and not knowing how to solve a problem. Because you still have to go do the work, right? Guys? Like, even though we're giving you the systems, the tools, the insights, the training, at the end of the day, I'm not quoting the jobs. Andy is. John is. Like, I'm not doing that, right?
That's right.
So you guys have to do the heavy lifting. But the heavy lifting that you do is for long-term results. Like, these systems that you have, that Andy has, that you have, John, these are for the life of the business, right?
Absolutely.
So, again, back to attitude. If you're on this call and you're not willing to do the work, don't even click the links below. Okay, you're just going to click them, download something. Like a lot of people, they go buy a book, they read it, and then they read another book. And they go, yeah, I'm working on the business. And I go, just hold on. Give me one thing out of any of those books that you applied. And they go, well, I haven't applied to any of them. I go, oh, so it just makes you feel good reading the book. Yeah. Okay. That's procrastination. Okay. No, seriously, true?
No, very.
Okay. So look at wrap this baby up what would be some of the last things that we talked about a lot of myths. We covered off a lot of things. There are A players out there. If you're listening in on this call, there's A player clients out there. This is during the COVID time. I'm going to tell you right now, it's the best time ever in the last probably 3 decades, if not more, to find A player clients, to find A player team members. Because you got A players that are working for people that for the first time in ages have been laid off. Maybe they're back to work already, but they've got this fear in them of like, holy shit, like, is this going to happen again? So they're looking. And if you can be the answer to their fears and frustrations and concerns, you're going to be like these 2 guys and land freaking 2 A players. Okay? Don't wait. When it comes to Class A players, as far as customers, it is the best time to get systems like what we taught you guys, the filter fast system, the template, how to rate your clients. Yes, you got to do some heavy lifting, but holy fuck, think about how much heavy lifting you do for a Class D, Class C client, and you lose money.
Oh yeah, and that's way more.
Some of your projects, guys, are what, weeks, months?
Yeah, up to 6 months.
So imagine, guys, if you're listening in, you land. Maybe your jobs aren't as big, but let's just say you guys. Imagine back in the day, John, when you look back, that there was clients you landed and you did all this fucking work for. You scheduled all your guys, you ordered all this material, you spent all this time, and the whole time you were losing freaking money for 6 months. So when people say, I don't have time, what do you say to that, guys? Specific to this topic.
When you say you don't have time, you're just not using your time wisely. Learn how to schedule yourself blocks of time to work on what you need to work on, and you won't be amazed how much you get done. Totally.
And again, you've got to learn the things. If Andy was not taught by Jon and PFC, so get the information from somebody. But if you don't have a system to know how to filter fast, to rate your clients, to know if you're pricing jobs properly, if you're running jobs properly, if you don't know, where you're at in that contractor's ladder of success of startup, stability, or scale, and you're like, where the fuck am I? You've got to find out. So what would be the last tips? What would you tell somebody listening to this, no matter where they're at that level? Andy, have you go first. What would you say to them?
I would say the biggest thing you could do is get your mindset right. If you know what you're getting into and you know what you need to do and how to do it, then you can do it very easily. If you don't know how to do it, you're going to struggle. So I would say use all the resources you possibly can, and they're out there. This podcast, I'm saying, they're out there. Like it's very easy. So why not take the help instead of struggling?
Andy, freaking love it, man. Fucking, that's great. No, seriously, that's great advice. Yeah. Right? Great advice. John, what's that? No, dude, seriously, rock and roll. Jon, you're up next.
My advice is, doesn't matter if you're a one-man show or you run PCL construction with 10,000 employees. The principles behind all this are all the same, and if you learn it, you can change your whole life in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I think that's both of what you guys said. If it hasn't resonated with you at this point in time, if you're not downloading free stuff and you're like, oh man, I'm having that problem, honestly, here's where I'll leave it off. And sometimes I leave off these podcasts with positive. I don't know. This one's maybe not so positive. When you know that there's a better way of doing something, and it's funny, Jon asks me this all the time. So a lot of clients are like, where do you come up with this stuff? Honestly, I don't know. There's aspects that I do know, but where I come up with these names and shit, I don't know. Okay. That's a gift. Like we all have our own little gifts, right? Okay. So this is one of them. When you know that there's help, when you know there's a better way to do things, and you consistently keep doing things the way that you're doing it, knowing that you could be doing it differently, even just a little bit differently, anything that you get from this point on, from this podcast that resonated with you, that you don't take action on, welcome to what I call is ignorance tax. Ignorance tax. And that tax could be time away from the family. That could be a fucking heart attack. That could be, losing your best players. That could be like living a life of hell, literally. Sometimes I think, when I look back, just this is my last little point about ignorance tax. One time I'm not going to get into great detail. One time I had to spend the night in the cell. Back in the old days. Okay. Right. Funny enough, both my brothers, which shocks me to this day, are both OPP. They're both cops. Like, go figure, right? Typical Irish, right? Like, give me a break. Two of my brothers became cops. So they were the worst. They were the worst. I remember that night and the morning that I spent in jail. And there was many, many times throughout my contracting world that I would have chosen that over what I was dealing with. Being an entrepreneur, if you're struggling, can feel like an invisible prison sentence. At least when you're in prison, they're feeding you. You don't have to worry about it. You got no phone calls. You got no emails. You got no projects you got to run. You got, really, it's minimal, right? I used to think, man, I would have been better off freaking just staying in the freaking jail cell. So don't let your life be an invisible prison sentence. Don't let ignorance tax get you. Engage, get help from somewhere, guys. Thank you so much. I love you guys. Andy, congratulations again for, going to the next level as being an entrepreneur. And congratulations, Jon, for you, for all the freaking progress you've made. Again, it's an early stage. It's only been 9 months. You've made tremendous progress. And make sure, Jon, that you engage on some one-on-one sessions with the team, either Liam or me or Rick or Jay, okay? As well as you, Andy, okay? To make sure that we're honing in, nailing some of these things that we got to nail. Cool?
Sounds good.
All right, guys, we'll catch you on the flip side. Awesome job.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.